This podcast is rated S for spoilers. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome to the Half Past Podcast. This is episode 3, the movie review of Tomorrowland. I'm Graham Ricks, and here with me is my friend and co-pilot Ian Jones.
I'm often mistaken for George Clooney in supermarkets.
Before we get into Tomorrowland, the trailer we picked for this week is Inside Out, the new Pixar movie. Now, this Pixar movie is another one where I'm looking at it and I'm like, I don't know if this is going to be good or not. And why is it that I keep doubting them?
Well, they definitely take some chances. They've been taking chances lately, so it's nice to see them do something new instead of another sequel.
Yeah, and it's just every time I see them, I'm trying to figure out, like, I go through all these emotions, oddly enough. So I watch the trailer, any Pixar movie, and I'm like, man, this doesn't look that good. And then I will watch the movie, and the movie's great, and then I'm ticked off that they didn't win an Academy Award other than Best Picture. I think that it's time that they get more credit. Like, Up is a prime example of that. I think Up probably should have won Best Original Screenplay that year. It was just that good. It was very well done. And it seems like the Academy doesn't even care about these animated pictures.
Okay, well, yeah, that's I completely agree with you. But to me, there's bigger problems because the movies that we really love don't ever get any attention when it comes to award time.
That always happens. And Up is just, I really like that movie, and I really thought it should have won. And the other problem I have with the Academy is, along the same lines of this, is that they have this problem with somebody like Andy Serkis, who always does a phenomenal job in the motion capture, and he does all the actions in the movie, and it's like they don't give, I mean, at least give him a nod or something.
He should, yeah. I mean, when we saw Planet of the Apes last summer, I think you and I both thought, wow, he should get an Academy Award for this.
Yeah, it was so believable, and never once did I think, oh, there's a guy in a suit doing this. No, it looked like he was an actual character, and that he was just like any other actor.
Right, yeah. It's a new way of doing makeup. It's digital makeup. He's still acting, he's still performing, he's in all those shots.
Yeah. It's real unfortunate. But back to Inside Out here, the one thing that I think is good about this is, if there's one company that can pull a movie off like this, it's definitely Pixar. Giving you basically, on purpose, an emotional roller coaster is something that they have done successfully before in tons of their other movies, especially Toy Story 3. So I think this will be just as good. But I don't know why their trailers just seem to trick me.
Well, I think it was kind of that way too before we went and saw the first Cars.
Yeah.
We were sort of on the fence about why this would be the case.
And how could you do a whole movie on Cars like that?
Right.
Yeah.
Especially with our animated background. I think we were thinking, but, it ended up being pretty good. So.
Yeah, it ended up being really well done. And, by the way, why is it that in this new trailer, it looks like they're trying to get her memories, and sadness touches one of them, and it turns it sad, and then all the stuff goes to heck, and then they get sucked up into the little tube. So it looks like sadness is the one that just messes everything up for this entire movie, which I thought was very interesting.
Yeah, I think it's aimed at family audiences. Yeah. And I think it's nice that this isn't another princess type movie.
No, yeah, well,
You know, and it's really a departure from the things they've done in the past. Lewis Black plays the little red guy that's angry, and I feel like that's not much of a stretch at all, right? that's like the most perfect casting of all time.
That is the most perfect casting I've ever seen. It's perfect for him. Oh man, that's great.
And Amy Poehler as basically playing the same character she always plays.
Well, for a while now, for decades. Pixar always does a great job at casting. They don't necessarily always go for huge, big name people. They just go for the ones that people kind of know about, or they've done one thing that's good. And they definitely did that for this one too, and I think it's just perfect. They did a really good job on the casting. Let's go ahead and get into this review of Tomorrowland. And we're back. Frank Welker and Cassie Newton embark on a mission to Tomorrowland in order to save the world. This movie is directed by Brad Bird, who also did The Iron Giant, The Incredibles, Mission Impossible, Ghost Protocol, and was a creative consultant for The Simpsons, and also one of my favorite Pixar animators.
We love Brad Bird.
Oh, Brad Bird, man. I love Brad Bird. He's done my favorite Pixar movie, and probably yours too, which is The Incredibles, which is just everything about that movie I love.
And he's working on the sequel too, which is awesome.
Yeah, that's great news that he's deciding to go ahead and do the sequel. So he's starring George Clooney as Frank Welker. He was also in Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, Ocean's Movies, and Syriana.
You know, what can be said about George Clooney that hasn't already been said? You know, like people tell me all the time, wow, you look just like him.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, I'm much younger. But thank you.
His character is... he used to be a boy genius, and then he became very jaded as he got older, and he was essentially kicked out of Tomorrowland. Next up we have is Hugh Laurie as David Nix. He was in 101 Dalmatians, The Man in the Iron Mask, and House.
Yeah, most known for House, I'd say.
Yeah, and he's like, I guess he's the villain in this movie, and he isn't in a lot. He's kind of like at the beginning, and then he's in at the end.
Well,
and it's like he's like the head of Tomorrowland or something.
How original, a British villain. Yeah, and I didn't really get what he exactly was in Tomorrowland either, but maybe we could get into that later.
Yeah, okay. Britt Robertson as Casey Newton, who is dating our boy Dylan O'Brien, the Maze Runner. Huh?
Oh, okay. All right.
She also was in Dan in Real Life and Scream 4. Which, do we need 4 Scream movies? I don't think we needed 4 Scream
I think we need
movies.
8. She reminds me way too much of Renee Zellweger. And
really?
It creeps me out. No squinting allowed. Like every time I look at her, I'm just waiting for her to scrunch her face up.
Well, Renee Zellweger just doesn't look the same anymore anyway.
Right, but I mean, wow, it's like Doppel.
Agree to disagree.
Yeah, okay. This is the first time I've seen her in anything, mainly because I avoid the kind of crap she's normally in.
Yeah, she hasn't been in a lot. I mean, she's been acting for a long time, but all the movies I haven't really cared to see that she's in. And her character is essentially the girl genius. It's basically Frank, again, is kind of how her character is. So she's more of the optimistic as a kid, and she's the dreamer. Raffi Cassidy as Athena, who was also in Snow White and the Huntsman. And she is an audio animatronic that wants to find all the dreamers.
She is the little girl that steals the show.
She does a very good job in this movie. Tim McGraw is Eddie Newton, who's definitely best known as a country singer. But he was also in Flicka and The Blind Side.
The last thing I actually saw him in years ago was Black Cloud, and he plays the racist sheriff. And he's a little too convincing as the racist sheriff. And it made me think, this guy, maybe he can act or something else, or maybe this is hitting a little too close to home.
Next up, we have Catherine Hahn as Ursula. She was in Anchorman, The Legend of Ron Burgundy, and Step Brothers.
She's in Parks and Rec.
Mm-hmm.
She had a recurring role as the political strategist, and she's wildly entertaining. She keeps showing up in little things here and there.
Yeah, and her character is just another audio animatronic that was in the Blast from the Past store. The other one that was in the store was Keegan-Michael Key as Hugo. He's been in Due Date, the Lego Movie, Let's Be Cops, and he's known for Key and Peele.
Key and Peele is awesome.
The other half, yeah.
He's showed up in so much. He was also in Parks and Rec as well. And he's almost in as much stuff now as Kevin Hart.
I don't know about that. I don't know what happened with this boom of Kevin Hart. Like, all of a sudden, he's just all over the place.
Eddie Murphy and Martin Lawrence stopped doing stuff. So, now it's going to be Key and Kevin Hart.
Next up, we have Pierce Gagnon as Nate Newton. He was also in Looper and Rio 2. He's just the little brother of Cassie.
He is destined for a Shia LaBeouf or Lindsay Lohan style meltdown when he gets older.
Oh, wow. You put Shia LaBeouf and Lindsay Lohan in the same category?
Yeah, here's how you flush your career. Right down the...
But Lindsay Lohan definitely had way more problems, right?
I don't... That might be debatable at this point.
All right.
Because at least people love to hate on her. I think people just want him to stop showing up places.
Wow.
Just, stay at home. Stay in France. It's perfect for you.
It's weird. He had such promise when he was younger. Because he had that... what's that show from Disney?
The Romanos, right?
No, it was like he was playing a twin brother. The heck is the name of that movie or that show? All right, I don't know. I can't remember the name of the show.
Or edit it out.
I can't remember the name of the show, but he did.
I thought it was something like I don't know. I don't remember. But yeah, my sister used to watch it.
Yeah, my sister used to watch it too. And so I saw a lot of episodes of that. And he did a good job in that. I thought he did a good job in Holes also. And also that one that was on, God, I think the show was Project Greenlight. But they did the Battle of Shaker Heights and they had him in there too. And he's good in that. And then he's just kind of started to spiral down. So I don't know what will happen with him. I don't know.
Just go ahead and crash it as hard as you can into the mountain if you're gonna, drive the party bus off the cliff.
Last but not least, we have Judy Greer as Jenny Newton. She's in Archer, Arrested Development, and a bunch of romantic comedies. I
like Judy Greer, and she isn't in this that much. It's like real briefly, but because she's awesome, I thought it'd be good to talk about her.
I really love her as Cheryl in Archer. She's just one of my favorite characters in that show. And it's always nice to mention Arrested Development, which is... It's
a great show.
Yeah, it was... God, when it came out, it won so many Emmys, and it just doesn't matter. Nobody watched it. I don't understand, because it was... The writing of it was one of the best writing on a TV show, especially a comedy. It was just brilliantly done, and nobody wanted to watch it. I don't get it. Now that we're done with these characters, Jones, let's get into our quirks and likes. Okay, Jones, I have some quirks here that we're going to start with. First being, I don't like Disney advertising me in the movie. I like the blast from the past scene was basically a big advertisement for Star Wars. Like even all the sound effects that they had in the background was Star Wars. And I'm like, I like Star Wars as much as the next guy, but don't advertise it to me in your other movie.
All right, well, I actually like that because when you think of Tomorrowland and what the future may be, it makes sense to have a scene where you have a nod to Star Wars, Star Trek, Lost in Space. But when you blow up a shop, which, as a nerd, I die a little inside because all that cool stuff got destroyed.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't like them advertising to me in the movie, but I definitely like the scene being in there because it does help with the advertisement or even just the feeling you have for Tomorrowland. Those are the movies you think about. So, yeah, you got a good point.
Well, that wasn't even the only spot either.
No, it was not.
The movie starts off with really a wink at the Rocketeer.
It does, yeah.
And, some other movies too, like Indiana Jones, where Beeman's gum is also featured.
Yeah.
And then it goes right into the World's Fair in 1964, where Disney had a lot of influence and
yes, they had a ton of
rolled out It's a Small World, and
which is also in the movie to advertise to you.
It's it's funny because they made it look so much better in this movie than it actually looks when you're in one of those stupid little boats.
It's just, God, there's also that scene where it's like, oh, there's a Coke in the fridge. It's clearly a Coke bottle.
Right.
It's just like, just stop advertising me in the movie. They kept saying audio animatronic, which, by the way, is a registered trademark of Disney. Like, stop advertising to me in this movie. It's like the whole thing, throughout the whole movie, they're advertising to me.
I mean, it feels a lot like a Disney movie, which I think is a problem.
Yeah, it's really over-optimistic and hopeful. I understand that that's kind of the point of this movie, where you have the characters that want to bring the dreamers down, and then you have the characters that are the dreamers that want to help everything and fix all the problems. And to me, it's a little too in my face.
Yeah, right. Yes, it's very thick. It's Disney cheese, and they lay it on very thick. It kind of reminds me of listening to Peter Pan as a kid.
Yeah.
And you get to that part where you have to save Tinkerbell and all the kids are clapping.
Yeah.
To save Tinkerbell. It's like, geez, where was Tinkerbell in this movie? It's like, she should have just shown up and saved the day, which is really weird because in that same movie, you have robots vaporizing human beings, vaporizing cops.
Yeah.
Into nothing, by the way.
Yeah, they just
they don't save them. No funerals.
Nope.
Those cops all have families that go to Disney movies, and they're not gonna have funerals for their fathers who just disappeared into nothing.
It's just, God, they spent so much time really laying that on pretty thick, and it's too noticeable for my liking. The other thing is Jones, there's a movie trope here that I know you hate.
Okay, lay it on me.
It's the one where they break the glass.
They break the glass in the driver's side car window.
And then they proceed to sit on the glass.
It makes no
drive.
sense.
Yeah.
I've had my truck broken into twice in the past. You cannot sit on a seat. And what blew me away this time was it wasn't a 2-door car. It was a 4-door car. Why wouldn't she punch the back window?
Yes.
It just
makes so much more sense.
didn't make any sense.
After I saw it, I was thinking, maybe this one's okay because she's a robot and she's driving in there, but there's some glass on the passenger side.
Oh,
but
yeah.
then later on, when she gets hit by the truck, Athena, and then Casey tries to, like, she steals the truck, and then Athena's like does that super, like, Terminator style run right after the truck, and then she blasts through the window, and again they're still just sitting in glass.
I don't know if any of you have tried sitting in glass, but it is not fun or something you could just ignore either.
Okay, so what are your quirks, man?
Okay, so why is it that robots always have a self-destruct? That seems like a really silly idea by the smartest people on the planet.
I have no idea why they always have the self-destruct. It seems like, if this thing malfunctions and it just happens to be near where you're at, if it's
your living robot and it just all of a sudden runs out of juice or just dies right there and you're in a public place with it, why does the explosion always have to be so damn big? It just that seems like really bad engineering. We wouldn't do that, right? I mean,
no, there's no way in hell that we would do that. It just doesn't make any sense, but it happens in all these movies.
I would be afraid just to sit next to a robot that I knew might self-destruct.
Just the slightest chance. I don't want to be anywhere near that thing.
I really didn't get what was so special about Casey Newton other than having a heart of gold, which I'm not really sure that's enough to save the future.
Yeah, there's only a few scenes in there where it shows that she's sort of okay, but you just know that she can maneuver a little helicopter remote control thing. She can stop them from taking down the launch pad. She can do things like that, but there's nothing really excessively brilliant about her, unlike the way they did Frank when he was a kid. Like, there was something brilliant about him.
If staying positive and being willing to blow something up was all you needed to save the world, then we'd be fine right now. We wouldn't have any problems, which to me doesn't really make any sense. I mean, they talk about right away that there's something wrong with the future.
Yeah.
She has to fix it. And, she's Little Miss Sunshine.
Yeah.
And the answer is to blow something up with a nuke. And I think that's like, that doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, that's sort of like mixed signals.
Yeah.
In my book. The other thing is, of course, the bad guy is the one British dude.
Yeah, the British guys do a good job as bad guys, so I'm okay with it.
Well, yeah, and they can sell you a Jaguar too. Jaguar.
A Jaguar. Now, why is it every time I hear that commercial, it sounds like they're saying Jaggy Wire?
Because they are. There's
all these Jaggy Wire. That's what I hear. Oh, just every time I hear it, I'm like, God, it sounds weird. I love the British.
I do too, except their teeth.
Oh, I don't think you fail to alienate a country.
Ever? every time I take a shot at a different country.
Every single time we do an episode, you don't disappoint on alienating a country.
Or a group of people. The other thing too, which was really bugging me about this movie, is kind of the way they set it up, because they start off the movie talking about looking right into the camera, almost as if they're leaving a video journal. And I didn't really like that. I didn't like it when people make commentary on what you're about to see. I didn't like it in Men in Black 3. That really bugs me. It's such a lazy storytelling device. It also happened in Daredevil. So am I giving you enough For all you people out there who maybe don't agree with me, it happened in the movie Daredevil. That movie Daredevil, not the awesome Netflix show.
Well, the Netflix show is awesome. Everybody watch Daredevil. I want multiple seasons. You don't understand. Multiple seasons. And fix that suit, too, by the way. This suit is wildly disappointing. It's like, wow, that's the one thing the movie got right. What the hell? Oh, man.
So George Clooney just happens to be running around with a nuke the size of a tennis ball.
Yeah.
And that makes me really thankful that we have Homeland Security. The guy's a hermit. He's got hundreds of satellites. He's constantly hacking stuff. Where are the feds all over this? And by the way, I've got this little thing and it could blow up the city. Thanks a lot. Speaking of Frank Walker, he's been in love with an 8-year-old for 40 years.
Yeah, that is really creepy.
This is creepy.
They tried their best to tone down the creepiness,
right,
as much as possible, but it's still pretty creepy.
Yeah.
Now that we're done with our quirks, let's start with my likes. Now, here's something that's actually not even in the movie, but just from our experience, you and I both know that companies are very particular about their logos. And I do enjoy the fact that Disney's willing to change their logos around at the beginning of the movies. They do it a lot in a lot of their movies. And I like the fact that they're willing to change it, because this one looked like Tomorrowland. It just looked great in the intro of the movie. And I just like when companies are willing to move away from their standard logo every once in a while to have some fun, which I think is just a good thing.
I think that's kind of something too that the visual effects guys like playing around with when they can, when they're allowed to.
The other thing I liked about this movie is I'm not a fan of George Clooney. And this is well known. And
what? You're not?
It's very well known I don't like George Clooney, and it's mainly because he plays the same character in a huge portion of his movies. Now, there are some layouts there that he's different, but this is one of them. He's not the smug, cool cat that we always see. He's actually kind of just a grumpy Gus through this whole movie.
Yeah, he's acting his age, oddly enough.
Yeah, right.
He's like, hey, where's my senior citizens discount? This is Denny's. Damn it.
He's so grumpy the entire time. He does such a good job being this betrayed boy genius, like this dreamer turned jaded, I don't care that the world's about to be destroyed kind of guy. And he does it well.
I'll watch the clock tick down.
The other thing is Brad Bird makes sure that this movie is visually beautiful. Everything about Tomorrowland is gorgeous. All the shots are great. I really like the scene where Frank, as a kid, the robot fixes his jetpack, and then he's falling, and then he finally gets it working, and he turns it on, and there's just this beautiful aspect of it where he's looking at everything and he's zooming around, and there's just this almost fantasy type feel to it that makes it look, it's part of the optimistic part of this movie, which is in it a little too much, but I do like I do like those scenes in particular. Yeah,
the world of Tomorrowland is visually very cool.
Yeah.
And jetpacks, floating trains, giant rockets, these are things that are awesome.
Yeah. And it also helps the movie later on, because when they finally get to Tomorrowland and it's not back when Frank was there or the commercial that the pen does, it looks really drab, and there's things
Yeah.
that are and so it's that contrast is kind of jarring, and I think that's done well in this movie.
It's kind of like when you actually do make it to Disney World and it's like in July and you're like, wow, this was a bad idea. You're just hanging around Epcot Center waiting for like the air conditioned.
This movie is very fun and entertaining, and some of the scenes are like when every time she touches the pen and she's like running into walls because she's in the house or she's at the jail. But even just the scene where she is riding in the car and she puts the pen on and then the car disappears. She's in Tomorrowland and she's just floating amongst that wheat field. It's just a fun little scene. And even the other thing that's fun and entertaining is those robots. I don't know why, but I really liked those dang robots. They were just so cool. They had all this character to them, yet they were robots. And like when he first sees it, it's the robot that helps him fix the jetpack to get it working. And he's just like the scene where I like how he's like fixing it with one hand and he's like pushing Frank away and the other hand. And he fixes it and then he hands it to him. And then he puts his helmet on and spins it around so that it fits him properly. And then he, ends up getting hit and then falls off. And then that's where that scene starts. But they're also the same robots that are trying to kill them at the end of the movie.
Right. That's true.
And it's just like, God, I really like these robots. Both versions.
Yeah. Well, and I think that one, too, was a different color scheme.
It was a different color
essentially, scheme. Yeah. Those.
It's just, I love those freaking little robots, man. I want a little toy of them now.
This movie is proof that robots are just going to try to kill you eventually. Terminator got it right.
Which happens a lot in this movie. That's another part of this movie where when Frank's there or in the commercial, these robots are real friendly and nice, but then when they actually get there, it's real jarring that they're probably trying to kill you now. And so it's just another good part of this movie where that contrast is there. And I like those instances, and I like the instances with the jetpack. It just seems like a lot of the dialogue is really trying to shove that right in your face, so that's where it gets a little overbearing. The other thing is all the action scenes, I think, are just kind of fun scenes.
Yeah.
They're not violent so much, but they are just fun. Just even with the blast from the past scene where she does the little grenade that's like a time grenade, and it's like shrinking down so she has to warn her that, you're in the path of these blasts. You need to move out of the way. And then she's still stuck in there, and so there's that time period where she has to pull her at the right time. And just the scene with those audio animatronics in the blast from the past scene is just a fun scene anyway. The way that you finally see Athena just start to kick some butt, and just the way she fights them, and the fact that Key is constantly getting hit. Like, he spins, like, he gets up and then gets knocked back down, and then he gets up and gets knocked back down again. And that just happens a lot. And even just at the end of the movie where Athena's controlling the robot is just kind of fun scene also. It's just fun. There's a lot of fun parts.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of, for it being a Disney movie, I thought a lot of the action scenes are really exciting.
Yeah.
And they're really creative too.
They are.
Especially when they're fighting the robots in his house, and he has like all these little booby traps set up.
Mm-hmm. Also, just the scene where they're stealing the truck, seeing just her getting hit, and then she comes back and she does the whole T-1000 running after you thing.
Yeah.
Like, that's just a fun scene too, because she like stops and then she like gets through the glass, and it's just crazy, and it's fun. The movie is real fun, and it does have that hopeful Disney feel to it. And that's all the likes I got, man. So what do you got?
The thing that really stood out to me was that this was sort of billed. I think I saw a lot of press that was promoting Britt Robinson as the star of this
there was a
thing,
lot.
because George Clooney doesn't really need an intro. He's just going to get people to go anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought the real star of this was the little girl, Raffi Cassidy.
Yeah, she's great in this movie. I think when she's first introduced, there were some scenes where I thought that her acting wasn't really on point. It was just like at the beginning of the movie. It seems like maybe those are like the first shots that they did with her. She just seemed weird, and I always look for that especially with child actors, because sometimes they're just awful. Like Avatar: The Last Airbender, which that has like the worst child acting I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
And Chronicles of Narnia, they're not good in that either. And we're in the same camp that grew up on movies like Sandlot and The Goonies, and just the child acting was just better. Even in the movies that aren't that great, the child acting is at least passable.
Right.
And I think at the beginning of this movie, I thought she was a little less so, but she just gets so much better throughout the entire movie, and she does a great job.
She actually brings a lot of life and personality to a robotic character, and so I think at the beginning she isn't showing that personality that she has later on, which is sort of a funny thing, because that's something that Frank accuses her of not being able to have, but she does have these subtle little things, and you kind of forget watching her performance that this is a little girl, because it almost seems like you're watching a robot by the way she's acting and behaving.
Yeah, and so she does a very good job in that. I agree. She's real strong in this. Okay, now that you are done with your likes, let's get into the ratings. I think Brad Bird takes you on an adventure to Tomorrowland that is fun and optimistic with a feel-good ending. So I say rent it.
Oh. I am also going to say rent it as well. I am stunned that we're both saying rent it to a Brad Bird movie.
Oh, I know, right?
I did not think you were going to say that. I am genuinely shocked. Wow. I'm blown away. So
Brad Bird we're such fans of Brad Bird, and this one just isn't one of his better ones, that's for sure.
And just so you guys out there know, we go and see these movies, and we refuse to talk about them with each other until we do the podcast right now. So I did not, that just, for whatever reason, caught me off guard, because we are such a huge fan, and it just seems like, it's like I like the movie, but I just can't get there.
It's lacking. It's not quite as good as I was hoping it would be. So definitely
too much cheese and not enough pasta.
Yeah, I think the problem is there's just a little too much Disney in this movie, which probably isn't Brad Bird's fault. I'm sure. Right. I'm sure there was some say that he was just like, well, I don't want to do this. Well, you kind of got to.
Yeah.
And it definitely shows in the movie. Now that we're done with the review, I want everybody to go to our new website, halfpasspodcast.com.
Like us on Facebook.
And make sure to give us a rating on iTunes. 5 stars, preferably.
We love when you guys give us 5 stars.
We're also on Stitcher. And I want you to email us at halfpastcast@gmail.com. That's halfpastcast@gmail.com. Help us improve the show, and we hope to continue to do this on as long as we can.
If you guys have any questions for us, maybe we can get them get an answer on the next podcast. Like, why do I look so awesome in this fedora? Which you guys can't see.
Oh, man. That's good radio.
Yeah, right. My washboard abs. And
oh, wow. Well, I definitely have a face for radio.
Okay, yeah. Well, I don't, unfortunately.
Just want to thank you all for listening, and thanks for your support. Next week, we have The review for San Andreas.
We're going to watch The Rock lay the smackdown on San Andreas. That was me flexing, you guys. I don't have a face for radio. I only have a face for a milk carton.
This is the Half Past Podcast. I'm Graham Ricks.
Jonesy.
See you next flick.